Now, if spring is around the corner where you live, it is the time you're going to be thinking of making more salads again. Now, salads is always a synonym of green lettuce, maybe a potato salad, sometimes a pasta salad. But the thing we always kind of forget is grain. And I'm talking about bulgur, couscous, quinoa, that sort of things. When I go to the supermarket, I see the grains. Oh, grain, that's nice, but let me pick a lettuce. You don't actually stop and take the grain because sometimes we don't know how to make it. So the first place to start is to make a simple tabbouleh. Now, tabbouleh can be made with couscous or bulgur. They're both based on wheat, but the bulgur is a bit more chunky, so you got less chance of getting something that is a bit like the wet sand, a bit more kind of sticky. So this is why I like to use the bulgur. It is very simple to make, and you're going to be able to use it as a salad, but also as a side for lamb or fish. It is also part of that Mediterranean kind of diet and taste. Now, full of sun, it's a delicious little simple recipe you need to try. In this episode, we're going to be making a French-style tabbouleh in its simplest form, because I always believe starting with the basic is the best way forward. Now, the tabbouleh, if you don't know what it is made with first a grain. Here, this is the bulgur. It looks a bit like a broken rice, and it's very chunky. But it can be made also with couscous, which is a similar type of grain, a bit finer. All what it is that grain that is rehydrated with boiling water and is then mixed with all kinds of fresh aromatics and vegetables. We've got tomatoes, mint leaf, spring onion, parsley, olive oil, and lemon juice, plus a bit of salt and pepper. This is the basic version. There are plenty of other versions you can make, but it is good to start by the beginning by making something that is simple and that works. So the first thing we're going to do is rehydrate that little bulgur right here. Now, bulgur, exactly like rice, needs to be rinsed. So I've got 100 grams of bulgur in here. I'm going to use a small sieve with a bowl, and I'm going to pour everything in here and rinse this under cold water so that it's nice and clean. And here we are. My bulgur is then rinsed. The next step is to use a large bowl, or what you're going to do is put everything in here, and you're going to put your kettle on, and we're going to boil some water because we need to cover this with boiling water. It is that simple. There's no cooking involved. It's beautiful. So here we are. Once the water is in, you're going to leave this to soak anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, depending on the brand and depending on the quality. The one I've got here, it says 10 minutes, but 10 minutes sounds a bit short. I think 15 minutes is going to be enough. And while this is happening, we're going to make the mise en place. And now for the ingredients. You will find all the details on the recipe that we've given you, but for now, I just want to talk about a few things that can make or break a tabbouleh. A tabbouleh is a kind of a really thin salads, thin little types of grain, and the one thing you don't want to do is to cut everything chunky, okay? This is all about thinly sliced. The spring onion is very thin slices. The parsley is a rough chop, but still quite thin, and the mint leaves is the same story. The tomatoes, I'm lucky enough to have cherry tomatoes from the garden. I'm just going to even cut them in half. But half of these is about the size that you want for your chunk of tomato. You can take whole tomatoes that you can peel and just dice in little squares. One last word of advice. When we talk about mint leaves, we're talking about mint leaves. So you detach the leaves, okay, like that, and then you cut them. Don't put the stems like this, okay, if you want to see, don't put the stems into your salad. The same go for the parsley. The parsley, you detach the parsley and then you chop it. The leaves, you don't want this in your salad. And it's not a stem salad, we're just using the leaves. So you're gonna thinly chop pretty much everything and press the juice of 2 lemons. Now, as soon as the time is up for your bulgur, doesn't matter what your packet is saying, I've left mine for 15 minutes. You're going to be draining it through a sieve and let it sit for a few minutes to cool down, and this is how it looks like. You see, it's not double in volume, but almost. So it's plenty of volume. See, I had 100 grams and I end up with quite a lot in here. Okay, so after a few minutes, we're going to lay this on a tray, on paper towel to dry it further, because you don't want something soggy. So what do I mean? For the drying, a little tray, some kitchen towel. You can use a tea towel if you want a clean one, but I'm not going to do that here. It's not necessary. And all what you do, you put that on there to make sure we're going to absorb all of the excess moisture in here. After a minute or so, you put the grain into a container or a bowl, and we're ready to assemble the salad. And now for the assembly. So as you can see, it's very simple. I've got all the ingredients that I need. I've got a bowl, I hope it's large enough, and the first thing we're going to do here is to take all of the bulgur and put that in. When that's done, you can add all of the herbs. Now there's no real measurement, usually 2 to 3 tablespoons of each. It depends. Usually you want the same amount of grain that you have of the rest. So for instance, like 2 or 3 tablespoons of tomatoes here. They're a bit wet. I'm going to take some parsley. And some tabbouleh actually have almost more herbs than grain. It is really that kind of amount. So the mint, you know, I'm going to use my hand. It's very, very fresh. Huh? Remember, this is meant to be like a Mediterranean style. You've got all these ingredients on here. It's meant to be super healthy, super fresh, and we're only using lemon juice in here and olive oil. So when we're here, you can use a wooden serving or anything. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to kind of see how the mixture looks like without the lemon juice, without the olive oil. Engage to myself to see, okay, you know, how are the colors? I like to judge by color. So like what you can see here, for instance, do you think there's enough tomato? I don't think so. I'm going to put all of the tomatoes in there. Okay, because tomatoes are good. You know, they're red, they give some flavor, some fruitiness. It's a fruit, remember, tomato. It's not a vegetable. And it really adds some color. If you want to have more things, you know, perhaps a bit more parsley, I think it's green enough, but I think I like a touch of a lighter color in here. So I'm going to add this, and next we're going to add the rest. So the rest, the lemon juice, it has to be really heavy. So these are like, they're a good lemon. There's lots and lots of juice. So once again, I'm going to be very cautious on here, not to overdo it, but you do want to have something that is really soaked in lemon, because the lemon, for me, really makes the dish. If you don't have that lemony and minty taste in a tabbouleh, it's not the same. You know, you want that. Once you've got a bit of lemon, you're going to add 1 or 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and you repeat. And that's about it. Once it's there, we're going to leave it to sit for maybe 10 minutes on the side or in the fridge to infuse with the dressing. And it's going to be done. The final touch, of course, before we do so, is a bit of salt and pepper. Okay, up. And a bit of that. Now to finish, if you're unsure of your measurement or your dressing, don't hesitate to take a spoon and taste, of course, the preparation. No. You see, I think there's just enough lemon. I would not put anything more. If it doesn't taste lemony enough, this is crucial, add a bit of more. The same goes for the mint. But do not serve the tabbouleh straight away. It needs time to absorb the dressing and to, you know, allow the flavors to really diffuse through the bulgur. So my advice is really to leave this to sit 10 to even 15 minutes before serving it. And here we are, 50 minutes have passed and the tabbouleh is now ready to be eaten, either as is, as a salad, or serve it as a side with lamb or fish or something else that you want. Now I've got a lemon on the side here. Why? Because if you want, like me, you know, you can grate like this some lemon zest to add an extra boost of lemon. Some people like to put feta in there, pieces of smoked salmon. There's plenty of options. It is really up to you. Now, as I said, this is the tabbouleh in its simplest form using bulgur. It can also be made with couscous, but really, if you've never tried it, have a go when the spring is coming. It is a delicious and a hearty recipe. Now, I hope you enjoyed the recipe, and I'll see you all next time for another video. Take care.